Let's bring in former NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher, criminal defense attorneys Stacey Schneider and Jeremy Saland. Jeremy's also a former prosecutor for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Darren, what do you make of this absolutely massive photo op with the NYPD and the mayor? Was it necessary to have that much of a show of force?
Well, Jake, you have to take in consideration the public knew that he was coming in or arriving in New York today. So we want to revert back to the teachable moments from when El Chapo was brought here back in 2017. They saw a level of success in terms of how El Chapo was transported from point A to point B and brought to the courthouse. So it made all the sense in the world because common citizens knew that he was there. Ultimately, this is on live television, and so we need to ensure that this is airtight and we don't have any issues in relation to the security of Mr. Mangione, because remember, we have a lot of sympathizers that support what he did, which is totally ludicrous, but at the same token, the NYPD needs to provide the necessary fortifications to ensure that this runs smoothly.
Jeremy, what do you think?
You know, I'm shaking my head here, and I'm thinking I was waiting to see this all go in slow motion. It was almost Hannibal Lecter-esque, not to sound so glib, as they're walking this guy out. The number of people there, you would think it was a presidential detail with the Secret Service. It was too much, but this is really prime because what's ultimately happening here in the Fed's sort of power grab, we call it bigfooting, to try to take this case, to get in the spotlight. This case is not a federal case. This case is not a murder one case for terrorism. This case is not dealt in this way if this was a domestic violence, assault, and ultimately murder crossing state lines. This is a murder two case that I think is being handled improperly in such a way that I believe it's going to galvanize those supporters in the wrong way because it's overcharged. It's the wrong message. Let's handle it. And let's not forget, it's about Brian Thompson, not about the Southern District getting that photo op or, for that matter, prosecutors in New York.
Stacey, you heard Shimon reference this notebook that authorities say was in Mangione's possession when he was arrested. In one entry, Mangione allegedly writes that, quote, the target is insurance because, quote, it checks every box. That sounds like pretty strong evidence.
Well, they're going to use that as evidence in the case to try to show that this was an act of terrorism. And the definition of that is an intent to coerce or intimidate the public. But the interesting thing, and I think it's going to come up in the defense of this case, is the alleged perpetrator, Mangione, he's the one charged. He never distributed, or anyone else for that matter, distributed any information to the media. Law enforcement distributed the alleged contents of the notebook. Law enforcement distributed his earlier words that I'm going to get the parasites, or this is targeted to the insurance industry. Generally, someone who is going to commit an act of terrorism to make an impact is going to broadcast the message, and that did not happen in this case. The broadcasting of the message came from all these numerous leaks purposefully. They want the public to know for some reason every aspect of the evidence they're collecting in this case. That's also highly unusual, besides this orchestrated perp walk with the mayor of New York City walking behind the defendant in the case, and the mayor is also indicted. So this was bizarre.
Jeremy, you know Mangione's defense attorney, Karen Friedman-Agnifilo. We know her here, too, at the lead. She was a commentator for us earlier. What kind of defense do you think she's going to go for Mangione?
Yeah, I think you have to lead with the lead. I think you have to lead with the insanity defense in part, whether that's ultimately he was unaware or incapable of understanding his actions morally, ethically, legally. That's got to be a piece of it. It's either going to mitigate or it's going to negate that intent. Argument being, you may have committed the act, but you didn't commit the crime because you lacked that intent due to that mental defect. So I think that has to start there, and you build from there.
All right, Stacey Schneider, Jeremy Saland, Darren Porcher, thanks to all of you. Around this time